Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer, food maker, or artisan selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us. Today we're talking with Ashley Colpaart of the Food Corridor about collaborations between farmers markets and commissary kitchens and the upcoming Shared Kitchen Summit.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Vendor 101, helping small farmers and food makers launch successfully at farmers markets. You know how to farm and you know how to bake. Let Vendor 101 make sure you know how to show a profit for all your hard work. If you're just getting ready to start your farmers market business, or if you recently started operating in markets and would like to brush up on your operations knowledge, this is the class for you. Market managers can reduce time spent answering prospective vendors' inquiries and help new farmers and vendors get off to a good start by connecting them with Vendor 101. Register today by clicking the Vendor 101 logo on the homepage at farmersmarketpros.com.
Well, welcome back to Tent Talk. Today we're joined by Ashley Colpaart, founder and CEO of the Food Corridor, producer of the Shared Kitchen Summit, and co-lead of the Food Entrepreneurs team at the USDA Northwest and Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center. Whew, that is a mouthful and a workload, and she's a busy and talented woman. Welcome to Tent Talk, Ashley.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and let's talk shop.
Let's talk shop.
Let's do it.
And we love Ashley, and old friend of Farmers Market Pros, and we're just excited to talk to you about all this exciting stuff you have going on. You are very busy. So for folks that are not familiar with you or your program, maybe haven't seen you at the conference or know what that's about, can you just give us a little kind of personal, professional background, how it relates to farmers markets and food makers for you?
Sure. So I'll start by saying I actually grew up going to farmers markets. My mom had a food business growing up. She had a hot sauce company in Austin, Texas. And so she used to wake me up at 5 a.m. to go to the farmer's market at the Travis County Farmer's Market in Austin. And I had to labor as a child, sell hot sauce, Sergeant Pepper's hot sauce. So I grew up in farmer's markets, and my mom's always been a food entrepreneur. So that's kind of where I get my love for all things food and food systems. I've also ran a market before in Colorado. I was I was working with the Northwest Rocky Mountain region and helping their food cluster run their winter market. So I know all about applying for SNAP and SNAP benefits and, all the kind of stuff that you guys deal with. So I have a lot of intimate experience with markets, which is fun. But yeah, my background has been in the food and food space forever. Kat and I actually met when I got moved out to the Southern California region out in San Diego for a grant a really big community grant we were working on. It was a regional food projects grant, and I was working for Tierra Miguel at the time, aggregating up farm produce and driving it from, Palma Valley down to the farmers markets in the city with like cases of oranges and avocados. So those were good days when Kat and I first got on the scene, and everybody was like, you have to meet Kat. You have to meet Kat. Kat was the person to know. So we have been just friends ever since, which is great. And then one thing I'll just also say is I've studied a lot, like from an academic standpoint, but I've always been like a practical application type person. It's kind of like take that knowledge and then really do something with it. So I did do my PhD at Colorado State in food systems, but my dissertation was looking at underutilized assets in the food space and essentially how we can make those assets visible, make the invisible visible to support local food economies. So I specifically focused on commercial and shared use kitchens as a kind of like an Airbnb for commercial kitchen sort of model. And that was my dissertation project, which led me into creating Food Corridor, which is a software as a service that helps owners and operators of shared kitchens manage their members and tenants. So scheduling and booking, compliance management of the business license, insurance, food handler card of all the vendors, which you guys are very familiar with, as well as time bookings and payments, collecting payments. So we're kind of a soup to nuts platform for shared kitchen operators, which is very adjacent to farmers market managers. So I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome.
I feel like you and Bridget could be buddies. You just have that shared history of your mom working in food business, dragging you in when you were a kid.
Yeah, those were good times. We had funny stories because my mom was kind of a cottage foods producer, so she was actually producing in our home kitchen in Austin, Texas. And I remember it was habanero sauce, and it was before habaneros were like really before there were like 1,000 SKUs of hot sauce, right? And we used to have to wear our swim goggles because the peppers were so spicy that we would need to protect our eyes. So we wore our swim goggles whenever mom was producing the hot sauce.
That is so funny. There's a support group for kids who had to grow up doing such things. My mom also had like a catering service, and my sister and I can go on and tell stories about staying up late at night making trifle.
Trifle.
And we have, all those stories. So fun. But, look at us now. Look at our work ethic and look at our creative ideas.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And our support of entrepreneurship and just how important it is to local communities. So that part never really goes away.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is instilled in us because our family our families are supported by that local entrepreneurship if we have parents that are in that space. And so it really gets instilled. So it's all a good thing. Thank you very much, Mother. So just on record, when did the food corridor launch? Like how long ago was that?
So we are 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was finishing my dissertation. At the same time I was launching the company. It was kind of a proof of concept was a lot of the research that I did. I did some case studies matching up shared kitchens with food entrepreneurs that needed access to shared kitchens. And I actually leveraged a list at that time in Northern Colorado. I was working for the food cluster, and we had access to all of the lists of farmers market vendors. And I actually sent my survey to these vendors, and that's where I got the most responsive people like, I need a kitchen space. I need a kitchen space. And I was like, oh my gosh, all these people really do need to be connected to these spaces. So I was matching those food businesses with underutilized kitchens or church spaces or bakeries that were closed half the day, or we had a school district kitchen that was renting it out on the weekends and in the evenings. And so I was really just trying to like find this extra capacity and then match it up with a food business that might like be able to produce in that space.
Well, when you talk about the Airbnb concept with shared kitchens, that's kind of the kitchen door side, right? We actually include that in our Vendor 101 classes because it's such a brilliant way to search for kitchens and find the kitchen that you need.
Absolutely. And so, when I first started the company, the idea of Airbnb for commercial kitchens is a marketplace business. And a marketplace business is one of the hardest business models to get right because you have to have enough liquidity. You have to have enough buyers and sellers in the marketplace that people are going to find what they need and return to the marketplace to find what they need again and again. So if I didn't have enough listings of kitchens and if I didn't have enough food businesses searching for them, it wouldn't really work. And so strategically early on, I made the decision to focus on the supply side, which in my mind was the kitchen side, build up tools and resources and infrastructure for them to manage their operations without leaving our system. And then we're kind of layering the kitchen door on top of it. So the kitchen door that you mentioned is basically our list of all the kitchens we know about in the ecosystem that might be renting out space. So some of them might be clients of Food Corridor, but others may just be renting out their space, could eventually become clients of Food Corridor. But that's really the idea of layering on top of the supply that I've been building, layering on top that demand so that eventually we can start merging together the two business models. So we're kind of a little bit strategically focused, specifically this year on what it looks like to maybe start merging those two things together.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because you started this when you were in Southern California and then expanded. And where are all of these kitchens that you have listed? Are they in different states?
Yeah. So Kat and I worked together like this. This was really early on in my career before I started getting into the kitchen thing. I did my dissertation in Colorado and 9 years ago. And I started the company in Northern Colorado. And I thought, I'll start local, right? I'll start with local resources and matching people up locally. And actually, that didn't end up working. I started interviewing shared kitchen operators all over the country and realizing so many of them had the same pain point. So many of them had the same needs around managing their members and tenants, managing the compliance, business license, insurance, food handler card, booking their time in the kitchen, tracking the hours they were using in the kitchen, and then collecting payments from them. So they were just like the same pain points over and over and over again every time I started talking to a kitchen. So I ended up just starting building for existing kitchens where their business model was to rent out to food entrepreneurs. And so we ended up kind of going national first, with just the people, the low-hanging fruit being the ones that were already doing this, that were really feeling the pain of not having a system to support them in their operations.
Wow. So that sounds like a lot to manage, especially if you're launching nationally first. How many folks work with you? Like, how many are on your staff now?
Yeah, so we have employee-wise.
Yeah, just
we have,
that work, to manage this.
So we have 10 to 15 employees. Some of those are contractors. Most of them are employees. I feel really great. Like, a couple of years ago, we started offering benefits and, you've been able to, healthcare and all the things. I feel like that's when I finally put on my big girl pants. I'm like, oh, I'm a real company now. Like, that's been really, really rewarding. So yeah, we have about 10 to 15 folks on the team now.
Awesome. That's such a great program. Yeah, how useful.
And so the services you offer, in addition to providing a service and technical support for the kitchens, you also have kind of maintain a network, right? Tell us a little bit about Nick.
Yeah. So when I was first doing research in this space, I sent a national survey to anyone that I could find that was a shared kitchen operator. And in that survey, this was like the very first survey I did. It's actually the survey I used in my dissertation. At the end of that survey, I asked an open-ended question, which if you're ever developing a survey, always put an open-ended question because there's always going to be something you didn't ask that they're going to want to tell you. And you can get those really golden nuggets. And I remember when I was looking through the research and I looked at that open-ended section, so many people put, well, I wish there was a place that I could go to learn from other operators and help identify best practices and see how other people are doing it and what resources exist. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like, why doesn't that exist? And so I started an online Facebook group as a community of practice called the NIC, which is the Network for Incubator and Commissary Kitchens. And it's been growing like crazy. In the last few months, actually, I've been surprised at how many more people have been joining. We have 3,500 people on our online Facebook group now, and it's not one of those Facebook groups that's just kind of dead and every once in a while someone's posting stuff. It's similar to y'all's the one that you guys facilitate. Vibrant. People are asking tons of questions. People are engaging. They're responding and saying, "Hey, call me. I can help you out with that. I can send you that." It's just like the community itself is self-guided and very giving about this information. So it's a joyful place to moderate because there's just so much happening there. And then of course we get the value of seeing the trends and the pain points and really knowing our client in an intimate way on what kinds of resources, tools, and features are being asked for as we move forward. So that, it's a win-win, obviously, for us.
Yeah, we find that same thing. I love to see how supportive market managers are of each other in our Farmers Market Pros community, and Nick is the same way. It is incredible. And as a facilitator, I mean, we do the same thing when we're looking at our conference topics or our podcast topics. We're kind of looking back at what are these questions that keep popping up? What do people need to know? What gap seems to be there? So that kind of group, I think it's kind of like farmers markets and commercial kitchens. People don't realize how much work is involved in facilitating a big group on Facebook, that kind of private group. But it's so worth it. The community that's grown in there is so authentic and so generous.
Yeah, and I know your community, Kat, is very similar to our community. We know there's a lot of crossover, actually, and we can talk about what some of those statistics are. But But I think, one thing I know is that, software can be transactional and business in a lot of ways is transactional, but food is relational. And I think that that is really evident in these communities as people are in it for different reasons than just the normal why I want to start a business. It is that collaborative and engagement and doing something bigger than ourselves. And I think both of our communities really like show that in the online form for sure.
Yeah, food business is different. Food people are different.
We're just different. We're weird.
So how can folks find that group? Just so if our listeners are
Yeah.
very excited about this, how do they find it?
Yeah, if they want to join.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the group is called the Network for Incubator and Commissary Kitchens.
I love a good acronym. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like sitting at home drinking wine one night and I was just kind of like trying to think of it. I was like, what could be snappy? What could be, and I'm like, the Nick. We call it the Nick for short, but it's Network for Incubator and Commissary Kitchens, and it's a private Facebook group. You just have to fill out a couple questions to get in there to make sure you're the right type of person. We oftentimes have food businesses looking for commercial kitchen space, and I'm like, this isn't the group for you. This is, it's a very different vibe. So we send those people to the kitchen door. You can find your kitchens over here. And this is our community for the operators to lament and talk about all the issues of the day, which, market managers have those same discussions.
Yeah, I think that's really the key to a successful group is kind of vetting the people in so that the conversation stays relevant to your active members. I think we see the same thing. So let's talk a little bit about the Shared Kitchen Summit that's coming up. Mm-hmm. So we know from producing the Intense Conference that there's nothing better than giving folks whose jobs are weird a chance to meet up with other people in the same business. The level of recognition of like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm talking about. You understand what I do is really fun for people. So you do that with the Shared Kitchen Summit. So tell us a little bit about that. How many years has it been running?
So we had our first Shared Kitchen Summit in Minneapolis, St. Paul at one of our kitchens called the Good Acre. And it was the first time we produced it. We didn't really know exactly how it was going to turn out and what we were doing. We had a lot of facilitation and tried to make it really engaging and breakout groups and a lot of kind of group work and it was a really big success. We had a waiting list, which was an indicator of like, wow, there is a strong demand for this. So that was really great. The next one we did was in Austin, Texas, which we've moved it from 1 day to 3 days. We added a food system bus tour for people to kind of travel around and see examples of kitchens and things like that. And that one also sold out and had a waiting list. And then we went virtual 1 year. I don't know if y'all remember this thing called COVID that kind of changed the world for all of us, but we didn't want to like lose momentum and people were like craving, some kind of connection. I wouldn't say it was our best one just because people were so sick of being on video and especially for being on video that long. We did like try to put kitchen tours in there and do some sort of more connective like breakouts and stuff. But it was really hard with the virtual summit. And so this is actually going to be the first year we're back in person. And I am so thrilled about that. Because this is like your group, getting these folks together in the room and they can finally be around people that get their thing. It's like, it's not often a market manager is going to like go to a bar or restaurant and like run into somebody else. Oh, I'm a market manager. Oh, me too. It's like, that's pretty rare. And it's also pretty rare with our operators. Like, oh, you run a shared kitchen? It's like they don't run into each other very often. And so when you put them in the room together, they have these just like, you get me. You really understand. And there's all this, transfer of knowledge that happens. It's like, oh, I handle it this way. Oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a really good approach. And just that cross sharing of information, people just really love it.
Yeah, we find the same thing. And we tell people, you know what, you're going to learn a lot from the folks on the stage, but you're going to learn just as much from the person in the seat next to you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that really is how these gatherings work. It's incredible. So how many people attend roughly?
Yeah, so this year we have more capacity. So we're aiming it at 220. We may be able to go over a little bit. We're already more than halfway sold out of all of our tickets. And then we've also had some really interesting things happen. So like the Minnesota Department of Ag reached out and they have a regional food infrastructure grant, and they asked us to hold 12 tickets aside for them to send a delegation from their
Oh,
state.
nice.
And I was like, that's awesome. I also work with the Regional Food Business Center in the Northwest Rocky Mountain region. And our theme team that was mentioned earlier in your intro, we are also sponsoring attendees from our Northwest Mountain region. So we have, I think, 16 and underrepresented communities. So these will be nonprofit kitchens or incubator kitchens that are focused on investing in underserved populations. So making sure that those people can access this really critical TA as well for their organizations and businesses.
That's amazing.
It is pretty amazing. That's been one of the more exciting things is I had this scholarship arm of things for underinvested communities, and I put it up, and the need is so big to the point where I had to shut down the scholarship application because we got like 63 applications. I was able to do what we could with the Regional Food Business Summit. This, Minnesota Department of Ag came in, but I still have 53 scholarships that have been submitted of people that want to attend the summit that haven't been covered yet. So I'm still looking for organizations that might be able to come in and support the ones in their states or in their local areas that they might still be able to come.
Yeah, what a great thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
what a great thing to support and just help, local businesses thrive and survive. I mean, this is kind of a hub for that. What kind of speakers and like topics are on the schedule at the summit?
Yeah, we're very excited about a lot of our speakers. Kat, you're going to be speaking, which is obviously great. Talking about how shared kitchens can really support farmers market vendors, what it means to be a farmers market vendor, and how kitchens can really leverage market managers in their region for tenants for their kitchen. I did pull some data before our call, and in our kitchens, they reported, so we did a survey, 92% of kitchens reported that their members sell at farmers markets. 92%.
Wow.
Like that's a lot of them are selling at farmers markets, as well as events, festivals, food truck vending, and private events like catering. So farmers markets was actually like the number one. And then we asked a question, does your facility include or are you part of any of the following? And farmers market was 26%. So
Wow.
a quarter of all of our survey responses are in some way connected to farmers markets.
Wow.
Wow.
I know it was higher than I was expecting too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you hosted a really popular Shared Kitchen 101 workshop at the Intense Conference in 2023. And even though a lot of our followers and conference attendees are tent markets, we pop up in tents, we go away, we have no permanent location. We do have some people that have pavilions, or they have maybe an adjacent building, or they operate out of an old school like the folks in New Hampshire. And we have some public market folks that come to the conference. But I was surprised just how enthusiastic, a little bit surprised, our followers were about that, because I thought it wouldn't be that relevant to a lot of us because we don't have a space. We've got tents. So are you seeing more market operators inquiring about starting kitchens? And obviously 26%, you see a lot of market operators that do have an affiliated kitchen.
Yeah, Kat. So it's interesting is the reason why we ended up on that path is that we had a bunch of our clients that use the Food Corridor software to manage their kitchens, trying to use our software to manage their vendors. And so we do manage the business license, insurance, and food handler cards for the members. And they were trying to apply fees and vendor fees and apply like stalls, and they were trying to like adapt the software. And we just thought that was so interesting. I was like, I wonder if this is an area we should move into. So we attended and sponsored your summit the year before that. And we did research. We set up interviews with folks and just started asking questions about what they're using and all that kind of stuff. And then, realize that there is a lot of crossover and increasingly so. I think a lot of farmers market vendors get asked often by the vendors, where can I produce? Like, where can I find shared kitchen space? I need a commissary. My health department's telling me I have to have a commissary to do this. And it's part of that whole legal framework. And so I know market managers are needing resources to share with their communities. And then some of them we started learning just decided this is a need in my community. We don't have a kitchen. We don't have access to commercial kitchen space. And those are the ones that I think are moving into a systems mindset where they're like, we should do this. And so we have it's actually kind of miraculous that Shared Kitchen 101 workshop that we did before your summit. We had, I think, 30 attendees. We've had 6 of the attendees from that cohort start kitchens and are now using our software.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh, I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah. So the crossover is real. Like it and I can see why it makes total sense, especially the vendors are the same folks oftentimes. So it's just it was such a rewarding thing for us to kind of figure out.
So you do see the number of people getting into operating kitchens growing because there is such a need. We have so many vendors that every once in a while the kitchens in our areas will all be full and our vendors are super frustrated. We see a big group of people that wishes that Shared Kitchens more often offered contract packaging too. So I don't know if you've seen any growth in your group in terms of that kind of service.
Oh, it's a huge topic right now. I've been doing a ton of interviews because I'm updating a resource that we have called our Shared Kitchen Toolkit. And in a ton of my interviews, I've been doing co-packing as a service. It's becoming really prominent in Shared Kitchen. So many of our operators, one of the bigger ones is Commonwealth Kitchen in Boston. They have a co-packing service offering that they offer. And so instead of the food business coming in and producing the food themselves, they provide the staff, they provide the equipment, they provide it, and they do the runs of the product and then sell it back to the vendor. So they're not actually doing the production. So co-packing as a service is actually one of our breakout workshops at the summit this year, just because the level of the desire to learn more about how to do that is really high. And I think it's important to note, like, part of the reason why people are thinking about co-packing as a service is people don't just, the business model to rent out just commercial kitchen space is hard to break even at. But if you add ancillary services for those vendors and for the members of your community, you can extend your offerings. And a lot of them are thinking about how they can be hubs of ecosystem service providing. And so the extension, instead of having maybe a vendor graduate out of a shared kitchen, they're going to stay with you, but join your co-packing program and let you produce their food. So you're kind of extending the life case of working with that client. And so it is a huge topic that's coming up. Another one you had asked about, like the summit agenda, another workshop that I'm super excited about is La Cocina out of San Francisco. Yeah, they're one of the premier incubator kitchens. They focus on immigrant women, and they have been running their incubator program for so long. They get asked and contacted by shared kitchens all over the country all the time. Help us build, an incubation program. And so they're actually sponsoring at the $10,000 level to have a workshop to talk about how they built their incubator program, what you need to think about, what works, what doesn't work. And so they're doing kind of a soup to nuts. If you want to do a program like this, here's how to do it. And if you don't want to do it yourself, we have an option that you could use ours. And so we're really excited to have La Cocina as a huge content expert in that space doing a workshop as well.
So then they're going to be able to offer those kind of services to people in different parts of the country, just as a kind of consulting package or something?
Yeah, so that's what that's how they're kind of expanding their services arm, is doing this more consulting services side, because they have a proof of concept, like their program really, really works. And they're so, well respected in the industry. So, their board is kind of moving into that direction on how they can kind of amplify the work that they've done.
Amazing. Yeah. They are an incredible group and great cookbook. They put out a cookbook that's a profile of a lot of their small business owners, and we just love that book.
I do. I love that too. I actually gave it as a gift at our Austin summit to my my leadership team. So, So
So if there's a shortage of shared kitchen space, what do kitchen operators tell you they look for in a client? Like how can vendors kind of sell themselves to a kitchen operator?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So kind of getting shared kitchen ready, like what that really means. Um, if you can kind of come to the table with your house in order in a sense, you have your business license, you have your food liability insurance, you have your food handler card and our food safety certified already, you're going to get in a lot faster and kind of be ready to hit the ground running. Knowing what times and days you're available and want to request in the kitchen and just kind of getting out ahead of that, how much time you're going to need for production. That can be kind of hard, I think, especially for someone that's moving like out of cottage foods into a commercial kitchen for the first time. And so that might take a couple months for a vendor to kind of figure out how much time they need. So asking for a flexible plan that allows them to kind of figure that out in the first couple months, I think is really helpful. Knowing what your budget is. So, these are services, so this is kitchens are paying for, all of the infrastructure, all of the equipment, all of the utilities, all of the licensing. They're paying for, the pest control and all the things that go into managing a facility. You have to kind of keep in mind as like what you're getting for the value. Instead of going and building it yourself and doing all of that, you're really leveraging someone that's already done that for you. So understanding the value that it's not going to be free, that the hourly rates typically are baking in a lot of those things that you're not going to have to be worrying about, but understanding what your budget is, and how that connects to your pricing, right, for your business. And having a business. And what I mean by that is at least having like a business plan and have thought through kind of what you're doing with your business and why you need a shared kitchen. I think those are kind of like the big things that if you can kind of come ready with those things, you'll impress the shared kitchen operator, because so many of them usually get the person that comes to the door that's like, hey, my friends tell me I make a really great salsa, and so I want to make salsa. What can I do? And they're just kind of like, wow, you're going to be you're a project.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That's the part where we go, you need to go take a look at Vendor 101.
Yeah.
That's right. That's Vendor 101. Exactly.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like how vendors need to come to market managers and just, like you said, have your house in order, have those things all set up, just because as kitchen operators or market operators, that's not a huge part of our job, is like walking them through like the lead up process. So that's so important to get that done first. And I mean, there's other groups that kind of help with that. Vendor 101 is always a really good resource for folks, but getting that stuff set. And if you're moving from a cottage operation into a commercial kitchen, I would think it would be helpful for the vendors to have a good like data source of how long does it take them in their one kitchen oven? What like quantity are they producing? Like what are they looking to scale up to? And just have that data already ready, so you can maybe not know how much time it's going to take in a commercial size kitchen, but you can see kind of growth from your cottage operation. And then when you get into the commercial kitchen, how can you scale up? How can you make the timing work better for you? And have that information. I always tell our cottage food operators, like, make sure you're writing down like how much time this is taking you. And I'm usually having that discussion because it's like, are you paying yourself? But also just for data for when you do things like this, when you're trying to like scale up or move into a more proficient, efficient way of running your business. So that's really helpful to know what vendors can do to get ready.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's another one of the values that, like Ashley was talking about, all the things that provide value to you and that makes it worth paying for a commercial kitchen is you're going to be able to produce so much more. You likely don't have a deck oven in your kitchen when you're doing a cottage food operation or a steam kettle. And so it's going to really change the amount of product you can produce in X amount of time. Reduces your cost of labor, whether it's your labor or you and helpers. So, I mean, that's a huge value of moving into a commercial kitchen with a product.
I agree. I would also say that there's kind of a few different types of commercial kitchens. There's going to be like your plain Jane commissary kitchen where the business model is just to rent out space, figure it out. This is your business, not mine. Go for it. And then there's also what we call like more incubator type kitchens, which we distinguish by as being, yes, they offer commercial kitchen rentals and access to the infrastructure, but they also are layering ecosystem services and education opportunities on top of that. So oftentimes those folks have partnerships with people that'll help you do your costing, help you do your recipe,
Right.
you figure out bookkeeping, help you, move through all the things. Because, oftentimes, and you guys know this, farmers market vendors and food makers, they're creatives at heart. They want to cook food, they want to cook cookies, they want to, that's what brings them joy. And then when you start kind of layering in the business stuff, they're kind of like, it's not fun anymore, and I have to do what?
Sure.
And so if you can, pay a little bit more for access to like an incubation services, you really can get a lot of those things figured out and access to experts to help you get through that faster instead of learning the hard way on your own.
Mm-hmm.
If I was 20 years younger, I'd be starting an incubator kitchen. I just think it's the most incredible little creativity hub of all. Amazing. And I love that a lot of our farmers market operators are starting to get into that kind of thing because they're doing it casually, incubating vendors that show up on site and don't know those things. And they're one tip at a time trying to get them there. But lovely to kind of systemize it and make it a logical progression through learning to run your business as a business. Passion meet profit, right?
That's right.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's also why I love the Shared Kitchen Summit is, everyone that comes there is cut from that cloth. And so that the conversations that are happening and just like, oh, you just feel like you're with your people. It's like they care deeply about local and regional food system production. They care deeply about economic development. They care deeply about entrepreneurship and generational, passing on generational wealth or building generational wealth for specific populations and access. So it's just kind of like we have this understanding that, yes, the kitchen, running the kitchen is a big part, but the bigger thing that everyone is doing is really contributing to these regional food system development. And I often say, similar to a farmer's market, is the shared kitchens at the heart of the local food system, and they're connected to the farmers market and they're connected to all of these ecosystem providers. And so it's an intimate and worthwhile endeavor.
Definitely. Amazing. Well, love all the work you're doing. This is so awesome. Really encourage folks to get involved if we have listeners that are operating a shared kitchen or interested in that, vendors that are looking for information. What is next for Ashley Colpaart and for the food corridor?
Well, we have our summit coming up, so
Yes.
I will encourage everyone to hop on there if you're interested in this space and what's happening with shared kitchens. It's just www.sharedkitchen.com. We actually just launched the agenda this morning, so pretty excited about that. It's still in draft form, but you can get a really good sense of what's going to be coming. I would say join our newsletter because we often announce regional work we're doing, a lot of the technical assistance that we are providing through the Regional Food Business Center. We're hoping to start also doing that in other regions through the other regional food business centers. So the Shared Kitchen 101 workshop, actually, Kat, that we did with you, that was the first time we ever did that. And we're actually continuing to refine it and really offer it as a TA opportunity. So actually next month, we're going to Portland, Oregon, and the Food Hub Network in Portland, Oregon has aggregated up 30 attendees to attend our Shared Kitchen 101. So those are really like setting the seeds for a lot more of these kitchens to get developed, to become developed. And so we're pretty excited, obviously, about that work and just giving people access to this information earlier. So a lot of what we've done is kind of build the playbook and like how to do this, because that's what was missing. And now that there is a little bit more understanding of like what works and what doesn't work and guidance we can give people through the 400 kitchens we've been working with really intimately, we can help people get there faster. And that's pretty exciting. So I think a lot of what we're up to right now is just laying the groundwork for that technical assistance, which there will be a very big announcement about that at the regional or at the Shared Kitchen Summit. So I'm going to, put a little Easter egg in the podcast here. But you'll find out first if you attend the summit.
Excellent. And I don't think we mentioned where the summit is. It's in New Orleans.
New
So I
Orleans.
mean, that's not a sad place to be in November. That will be nice. Do you have a special tour planned in New Orleans?
Oh, well, you guys will love this. Our tour is to the farmers market.
Excellent.
Taking a bus to the farmers market. We'll be giving everybody tokens to spend. And right before we hop on the bus, we have a New Orleans food system panel that's going to talk about the food system there and what kind of vendors there are and kind of the history of that before we head to the market and eat some delicious food from vendors there. So we're excited.
We love it. We've got friends in farmers markets in New Orleans, so excited to be there. I'm excited to see you in New Orleans. Ashley, so I'll see you in November. Thank you so much for being with us today. This was a great conversation, and you're doing such good work.
Thank you. You guys are doing such great work too. I feel like we're, very similar peas in the pods. We're right next to each other, and there's so much more crossover, and that just makes me so excited. So I appreciate you guys always being willing to work with us on things and communicate what we're doing, because we love to communicate what you guys are doing as well.
We'll have to chat a little bit about if March 9th looks like another Shared Kitchen 101 opportunity.
Want to do another one?
And maybe. We'll be talking.
We'll be talking. All right. Well, we'll see all of you there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to Vendor 101 for helping new farmers, food makers, and artisans launch at farmers markets, making market managers' lives easier, and for generating the income that lets us produce Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. To register, click the Vendor 101 logo on the homepage at farmersmarketpros.com. And for more information on creating a customized Vendor 101 program for your market organization, email us today at connect@farmersmarketpros.com.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow Farmers Market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community, and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Find online education and other resources at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is hosted by Kat Fields White and Bridget Myers and produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in next week for another great episode.